Well, hey friends, welcome back to The Joy of Wrenching. I'm your friendly neighborhood mechanic, and today we're back on Project Retro Joe. And I haven't been on this project in a little while, or at least I haven't shown you guys much on this project in a little while. But if you don't remember, this is a 1978 Chevy Corvette that came into the shop. A friend of mine from high school had this thing sitting on the side of his house for about 20 years, and he just wanted to get it running again. And if you know, anytime that you've got something like this that's been sitting around for a long time, there's going to be a lot of things that just went wrong over that amount of time. So we've got a bunch of videos out there on this thing you can go and check out. But we went through the cooling system, we went through the fuel system, the ignition system, the braking system, the fuel system, the headlights. It was a labor of love, let's call it. I tell you, anytime a car sits for 10, 15, 20 years, everything rubber on that car is pretty much going to need attention. And this one was no exception. So come on and let's go and let's take this thing on a test drive. And I want to show you all the things that we've done and what kind of a difference it's made. You may remember from the last video on this thing how as we were driving down the road, it looked like Uncle Buck's car with the big white billowing smoke coming out of the exhaust. Well, ended up finding out what that was, as there was this clear hose here, this vacuum hose that goes down to the transmission modulator. And while it was running, you could see the red transmission fluid coming in through this hose. It was being ingested into the engine, and of course that would burn and make all kinds of billowing white smoke. So what it ended up being was there's a diaphragm, again, piece of rubber on this car that had perished inside that vacuum modulator at the end of this hose, and the vacuum, which is pulled off of our intake here, was sucking transmission fluid while it was running. So that was a relief to find that and be able to fix that. And so now, as I'll show you here in a moment, this thing runs with no more smoke. Another thing we spent a lot of time on is this carburetor. This is probably the original carburetor. The codes check out to be the original, but it had all kind of problems. The jets that were in it were wrong. The metering rods were wrong. The plates themselves didn't shut correctly. So we spent a lot of time rebuilding this thing and getting it running just as well as we could. And while we were at it, we went ahead and changed it over to a electric choke instead of the mechanical one that was on there, the heat operated one that was on there. Underneath here, I know you can't see it right now, but the valve, the rockers were clacking and making all kinds of annoying noises, and so we had to do a lot of tightening up and adjusting the valve lash on this engine to get it to run as best as possible. Now it still sounds like there's some clatter in here, and I think that maybe there's some adjusting left to do. Maybe there's even a dead lifter, but yeah, we didn't get the go-ahead to tear the engine apart and rebuild it, and that's not really the scope of this project. So let's go up underneath here. This is under the rear of the vehicle, and I'll show you a couple of things we had to work on back here. Try and keep that light out of your eyes. These are the rear strut control bars and strut arms, and these things had to be replaced. The rubber bushings on either side of these things were perished, again, just like this rubber bushing, these things. So, we didn't end up replacing everything rubber on this car. To do that would be almost a full restoration, and that's, again, not the scope of this project. But one of the things that these strut bars was causing was a lot of really weird sort of wandering of the rear end and clunking as we were driving along, kind of a scary feeling. So if you're feeling that on one of these old C3s, check those things out and the bushings inside of them. You might go back and look at some of the early videos of when we first brought this thing home, how it wouldn't even open with on this side. This door handle needed to be replaced, but this steering wheel, the whole column would shake wildly left to right, you know, probably about almost a foot. And so we had to tear apart this steering column and tighten up some of the guts inside of there. Of course, the guy, the owner, needs to be able to get this thing to pass inspection. One of the things it needed for that was a horn, so went ahead and got that horn fixed for him. But as you can see, you know, the car still could benefit from quite a bit of restoration and all. But it's a really neat car. These things are very pretty. A lot of us think so anyway. And I really like the body lines on these things. Another one of the projects that we had to do on this was the headlights. So these old C3s have vacuum operated pop-up headlights. So of course they pop up like that, and then whenever you turn them off, they pop back down. And the way they move are they're actuated by vacuum. These pots here will pull vacuum, and there's a bunch of hoses and a whole lot of sort of rigmarole that goes into that system. And so ended up finding out, again, things that were rubber were perished. So the pots had rubber diaphragms inside of them that were gone, and there's even a diaphragm inside of our little headlight switch there that had some problems. So once we got that and the hoses and all of that figured out, the headlights now turn on and go up and down like they're supposed to. Another neat feature of these C3 Corvettes is the steering rack. So you've got power steering, but it's a piston, and all of these hoses and all of this actuation and everything either needed to be replaced or rebuilt. Again, because there's so many little rubber parts inside of there. But it works good now. All right, so enough gabbing. I'm sure you guys want to hear it run. So let's get in here and start it up. Hadn't started it in a little while, so it may take a second to start up, but we will see together. A little gas. Hey, there we go. No bad, too bad, huh? All right, and let's see if we got that problem with the smoking taken care of, huh? There's our tailpipes there, dual exhaust. I don't know about you, but I don't see any smoke, so that's a good sign. Sounds good. Still a few little clacks on the engine, but like I said, without a rebuild, this thing is about as good as it's going to get. That 11 old V8. All right, well, let's take this thing for a spin. Nothing like a classic car. Brakes work, engine works, lights work. Oh, let's pull the headlights. Let's see if they pop up. Oh yeah, go down, yeah. All right, we're cruising the neighborhood. Looks like the tech doesn't work, but the speedometer does. Feels good. So much different than last time with the white smoke billowing out the back here. Look, you can see no more of that problem. Thing feels pretty good. Let's check the brakes again. Oh yeah, no problem. You know, I was wondering if it's got enough power left in it to do a burnout. So let's find out. No, not enough power to do a burnout, at least not without power braking it, but At least it's got enough power to get up and out of its own way now. Yeah, if you want more power out of this thing, we're going to have to do a rebuild. But until then, she's a runner, she's a stopper, she's a driver, and it's a lot of fun. And she looks good. Well, it looks like this is probably going to be the end of the Retro Joe series. Retro Joe here's owner's going to come and get her tomorrow. And, you know, I must admit, I'm a little sad to see her go. She's been here for a little while, and we've gone through system by system and just sort of taken our time, had a little fun with it. And that's what this is all about. That's why the channel is called The Joy of Wrenching. You can find joy in working on cars if you do it the way that I show. And, you know, guys, these cars, if you want one like this, don't let the Corvette name scare you. The C3 versions like this, they're not that expensive. You can find a nice restorable version of this car, just like this one, anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 all day long. And as I showed you, it's not that hard to go through it system by system and do all the little repairs that it might need. You don't need this big fancy shop. You can do it in your garage with just some simple hand tools. And these things are such great vehicles when they're done up. You'll get a lot of thumbs up, turn a lot of heads, and they just look cool, don't you think? So again, I am going to miss Retro Joe here, but she's ready to go home to her owner. He's ready to finally, after 20 years, get to drive this car, and I'm looking forward to seeing his reaction. Thank you guys for tuning in along with this project, and you can see these videos on either side of my head here at the end that where we go through different systems. So go check those out, and especially if you get one of these yourself. Thank you for your time. Y'all have a wonderful day. God bless, and I'll see you on the next one.